Hello and welcome to the Cabin Boy Knits Woolcast, coming to you deep from the Canadian forest.
This is Christopher.
And this is the other guy,
Jamie.
We've been away for a while and we've got a lot to catch up on. We went on a couple of road trips and we went to Scratch Supply Company.
We've done interviews, been interviewed, Targhee sheep history, and an escape to a knit retreat in upstate New York.
And we're going to announce the winner of the Edmonton Fibre Frolic. So sit back, grab your favorite drink, and we'll tell you our story.
Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Yeah. Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
We are back.
It has been a while and we're very excited. I don't even think I need this coffee.
I don't think you do either. What is it, caffeinated this time?
It's decaffeinated
okay.
Because I'm so excited I don't need it.
So do you want to go in chronological order?
Have we ever done that before? What?
Well, I'll start off. I think the first thing I wanted to talk about was the trip to the Grand Canyon with my son.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
That was fantastic. So basically, my son graduated, and so I thought as a trip, we would go to Las Vegas and the Grand Canyon. It was pretty amazing. And I kept thinking about you on the trip because...
I'm glad they thought about me while I hauled wool and washed wool and packed and stacked and spun wool.
Well, there was a lot of activities that we did that I think that you would not have been thrilled about. One of them was we went to the old part of Las Vegas, and you know the zip lines?
I know what a zip line is.
Well, this one was 11 stories high.
I don't do zip lines.
11 stories high. Well, you'd love this one. It was 11 stories high, and it went 4 blocks. And normally on a zip line, you're sitting like this. This one, you're like Superman. You're like this. Horizontal. And so they lift you up, and they drop the floor, and then they release you, and you go shooting across 4 blocks above all these people.
Wow.
And it was amazing.
I think I would do it.
Yeah, you should do it. I think you'd get over your fear maybe of heights.
Well, once you're on the way, there's no turning back, as they say. So
yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, when you had done that before when your son was a little younger at the CNE.
Yes.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And
he wasn't heavy enough and he got stuck.
No, because he had to be a certain, and that's where my worst fear comes in, because he got about halfway, started slowing down, didn't make it some other person had to come and rescue him, so a zip line behind him, scoop him up, and off they went. And I'm like, if I'm dangling up there a couple of 100 feet above the people, I'm not happy.
Yeah, well and that's
probably what would have happened to me in Vegas, but I wasn't there.
Well, the weight definitely helps because I flew out and Devin, I'm probably
your new weight
50 pounds heavier than I'm more than that.
You're not
50 pounds heavier than Devin, 40 pounds
heavier
heavier
than Devin. Say that.
Than you? No, please. Isn't it the other way around?
Okay, let's just leave it at it's weight. It's adjustable by weight. If you're heavier, you're going faster.
Yes.
You're lighter, you're not going as quick.
Yeah, but that wasn't the highlight. The highlight was really just spending time with him because we get along so well. Mm-hmm. And so and we appreciate everybody's differences. So he accommodates some of my needs, which are
tell me more about that.
Like going to a yarn shop. I wanted to limit my yarn exposure with him.
Yes, you said that.
But he sleeps till 11, so I was out doing stuff in the morning and then came back. But we stopped. There was a point where we had to drive from Las Vegas to the Grand Canyon. We drive along the highway and then you head north. But there's a town called Williams. And in Williams, I said, "Oh, Devin, do you mind if we just go down this road?" And so we went down the road, and he said, "Dad, I knew it. I knew there was a yarn shop here." And it was closing.
You didn't tell me about that.
Yeah, it was closing in 3 weeks. So we went in.
Did you buy out the stock?
No, because I was looking around, I didn't see any sale signs.
Oh, gosh.
And so...
I thought you were going to say I didn't see anything I liked.
So we left. It was funny though, we walk in and there was a knitting group in there and they were wanted to know all about why two guys were coming into the yarn shop. And so I bought some yarn, we left, and then I said, Devin, I found it so odd that they're closing in 3 weeks and they don't have any sales on. And he said, Dad, there was a huge sign that said 30% off. And he said, I didn't tell you because I knew you'd spend all day in there. So I think that's parent abuse, I think. Anyway, we had a fantastic time. The Grand Canyon was phenomenal. You would have, I don't know how close you were at the edge.
I couldn't have gone close to an edge.
I saw photos and I thought, absolutely incredible.
Near, that to me is too close to the edge when you're seeing just, the precipice at your feet. I'm thinking, step away from the crevasse.
And then we went to the Valley of Fire, which was amazing. That was incredible.
What was the Valley of Fire?
So I would go back again. It looked like you're in a different planet. It's just so incredible.
Is that with those beautiful landscape and the red rocks? And
it's 30 miles just outside of Las Vegas.
I saw photos.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
So everything was great, except for when we rented a vehicle and they upgraded us. And so it was either a Wrangler or this 150 souped up vehicle. And so Devin said, okay, go for the 150. So we went in. This thing, you needed a ladder to get into it. It was so jacked up. He was so excited about it. But it was trying to park that thing. It was ridiculous.
And it took some getting used to drive it.
Oh, yeah.
Not?
It was great on the
Especially
highway.
When you're going on the back roads.
Yeah, but anyway.
Smaller roads.
Yeah. So that was that trip. And then we got back and we went to Vermont and New Hampshire.
We did.
Beautiful,
and I was
beautiful.
going to say, it's interesting that he didn't mention anything about Vegas, because what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas. Nothing happened in Vegas, I guess.
Nothing.
Okay, so now we're moving on.
It was great though, because when you get to Vegas, you arrive at night, and it's just.
And you went to Old Vegas.
Well, that's
and where.
Oh my gosh! I
wasn't paying attention.
That's where I did the zip line. That's where I did the zip line.
No, but you mentioned going to that where they retire all of the neon signs.
Oh,
that's pretty incredible. Because I know it's in a very famous movie. Because I remember talking about it. We've seen a scene where they're walking through the historical signs that are all.
It's really cool.
Like an outdoor museum.
A
lot of that sounded amazing.
Yeah, the Neon Sign Museum was fantastic. It was really.
So now
really good.
We're on our way to Vermont. Through
beautiful Vermont, New Hampshire, and Saratoga Springs, New York.
Yes.
So what did you think? That was your first time in there, wasn't it?
Well, we'd driven through Vermont once before.
Oh, that's
part
right.
of Vermont.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely, I'm still amazed at how stunningly beautiful the landscape is. And I love the architecture. It's so different from here in Canada. You would think it's just our neighbors to the south, but very unique architecture. It reminds me of, little towns and places you always see in U.S., American movies, really.
Yeah.
And then here you are in these quaint towns, and they're very, pro-American, and their flags and those, what do you call those other, red, white, and blue that hang down off buildings and verandas, like some frilly.
Yeah, it reminds me of the July 4th.
Yeah,
you see them.
And a lot of them you just see them all the time.
Yeah,
these sort of banners, and it looked, it was great.
Yeah,
yeah.
And the weather, we lucked out on the weather as well.
It was very nice. It was warm because this was May.
Yeah, so we were on our way to a retreat.
Yes,
your first retreat, but before we got there, we wanted to go a little early and do some interviews. And we went to the Scratch Supply Company in Lebanon, New York, which was on my bucket list, and I was super excited to go there. So what did you think of that?
Well, it was wonderful. It was great. They had a beautiful shop, and the hosts,
Karen, Jessica, and Travis in quote marks, because we don't believe he exists.
I said, I know, because even going back and thinking back, I'm like, well, who's Travis? What are you talking about? Because it was,
yeah, Jessica and Karen, and they were super, super nice. And so we've got that interview for you, so sit back and check it out. We're in beautiful Lebanon, New Hampshire at the Scratch Supply Company. This yarn shop has been on my bucket list for a number of years, and I'm so excited about going in to look at the yarn. So let's go in. Wow, look at this store.
Hi,
hello. So who do we have here?
I'm Jessica. I'm Karen.
Nice to meet you. This is a gorgeous store.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do you mind taking us on a tour?
Love to show you around.
That would be great. Thanks.
So how old is the store?
So we're 5.5 years old.
Yeah, it'll be 6 years in the fall.
Mm-hmm. So
Fantastic.
in a minute.
Great. Okay, I'm all set for the tour.
All right. Should we start right here?
Sure.
So this is our seating area where
Yep.
we have social knit time and classes.
Oh, yes.
Classes. It's been a while since we did classes, but we've started
Yes.
slowly reintegrating them into our schedule. So
Yep.
people hang out on the cozy couches and
Oh, nice.
we learn all sorts of fun knitterly things.
That's great. And what type of classes do you offer?
So we do everything from like intro to knitting to project-based classes and like skill-based classes,
Yep.
kind of learn how to fix your knitting things. So
That's
it kind
important.
of varies. And we used to do knit-alongs,
Yeah.
like kind of class-style knit-alongs, but we've sort of transitioned those into a different format, so
Sure.
they don't really happen like in the store anymore.
We had started doing like a year-long, zero to sweater class. We tried to run the very first one starting at the beginning of 2020.
Yep.
So, we didn't get to finish that one out in person, and we're going to start doing that again when we're confident we could get through an entire year with in-person meetings, because doing that over Zoom was just kind of a bummer.
Yep.
A little challenging.
I think this is great. I mean, when I first walked in, I saw this area, and I think this is so important. This is the community area, and so I think it's fantastic that you've got one in your store.
Yeah, it's really nice to be able to sit here and like work on projects with people. It's also a really interesting thing that happens because people will sometimes come in and think that it's a furniture store.
Oh, yes.
And so there would be this like kind of awkward like, so how much for the couch? And you're like, I don't know, it's my couch. Like, which is usually a pretty funny conversation with someone we wouldn't normally get to talk about. With someone we wouldn't normally get to talk to. So.
Is the furniture used throughout the day, or is it just at set times, or?
Oh yeah.
So right now we're still scheduling our knit nights,
Okay.
so it's not like drop in and just hang out here all day. We're on the couches throughout
Yes,
the day,
yes.
like working on our laptops.
Yep.
But when things are safe, it's open knit time. Like people can just stop in and hang out.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I'm always interested in the clients that you have. And so age-wise, gender-wise, what does that look like?
So we have, I think, a pretty diverse clientele.
Yeah.
We have people of all genders who knit here.
Yeah.
And some of our youngest knitters are people from the college who come and are learning how to build their skills or already have skills as knitters through like elderly folks, people of all ages.
Fantastic.
So, but there's a lot of like, I would say 30s and 40s energy happening in this space too, because our community is growing and lots
That's
of like
exciting.
young families
Yeah.
are moving to the area. So
Oh, terrific.
lots of people are getting their hands on the wool.
Oh, awesome. Speaking of wool, do you have any here?
We have so much. Yeah.
A little bit.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go see.
Yeah.
So you happen to be here on a day where we have a little designer trunk show.
Oh, okay.
Alicia Plummer, who is a knitwear designer in Maine, so
Yeah.
local-ish to us,
Yep.
sent us her trunk show. So we have samples of sweaters, and I think there's some shawls out in the shop. They're kind of hanging up, scattered all over the place, but her designs are like really cozy, wardrobe staple kind of everyday wear. It's fantastic.
That is great, because normally when you think of a trunk show, you think of the dyer coming and
Right.
having the trunk show, not necessarily the designer. That's fantastic. And you're pairing them with, I see you're pairing them with a Canadian dyer and others too, so it's great.
We adore Julie Asselin so
So do
much,
we.
and her yarn
She's
is
so
great,
fun.
and she is great.
Yeah, she's a super person.
So, right up at the front of the shop, we have some yarn from Brooklyn Tweed. In our space, we carry all natural fibers, so lots of animal fibers, a little bit of plant fibers, but we don't have a variety of synthetics for people to
Sure.
pick from.
Yep.
And we try to be intentional about like who we're working with and the types of fibers that we're bringing in, and we really appreciate the conscientious approach that Brooklyn Tweed takes
Yes.
to developing their yarns. So it's great to be able to partner with them and have them in our shop. We also carry lots of spin cycle.
Yep.
So we've got our spin cycle corner over here where we've got 4 of their bases. We stock their Dream State, the dyed in the wool, and then Versus and Wilder, which is their undyed 2-color, like the natural gray yarns.
Yes.
Which is lovely.
And what is the base?
It's a Rambouillet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sport weight. It's
Oh,
beautiful
nice.
and springy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Rambouillet.
Rambouillet is so, and it's kind of I felt like it took me a long time to come to it, but it's such nice yarn.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very much like cotton against your skin for people who don't like super woolly wools.
Yes.
Yeah, it's lovely. Let's see, what else? We have lots of Harrisville.
Yes.
And Harrisville is great. They're our neighbors. They're right down the road, like about an hour south of us.
Oh, okay.
And they're a fantastic historic mill, and it's wonderful to be able to carry their yarns in our shop. So we carry the nightshades and the daylights, along with their other like kind of flagship bases like the Shetland and the Highland and Turbine.
Yep.
Well, and they actually mill about half of the Brooklyn Tweed yarn also, which is also kind of neat.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Like the shelter in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally standing right in front of
Yeah, the nightshade's so interesting. It's nice to knit up with too.
Oh, it knits up so nicely, and it feels like it feels to me like yarn that you have to see in person to really understand, which I appreciate also. Like, it's
Yeah.
fine to look at it on the
Sure.
website, but you have to like kind of like a camera. It's hard for a camera to see the like color
It's true.
halo.
Yeah,
of
and
it.
it looks different under different lighting as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's nice to knit with a different breed as well.
yeah, 'cause that one's Cormo.
Yeah.
Let's see, we have Canadian dyers that we love working with, like Julie Asselin and Sweet Georgia,
Yes.
who does really great hand-dyed work.
Out of Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And some of our Julie Asselin bases are also milled locally to
Yes.
us. So the nurtured and nurtured fine, which we have further back in the shop on cones, are milled right down the road at Green Mountain Spinnery in Putney,
Yep.
Vermont. And we really like working with Julie to get those bases because of that local connection
Sure.
to us, and because part of our like broad vision for the shop is supporting like local fiber sheds and reducing environmental impact.
Yeah.
Like we get to eliminate some of the cross-border trips that yarn would be making
Sure.
otherwise, because
Yeah.
instead of having it come past us to get down to the mill and then go back to Canada to be twisted and labeled and then come back here to us, we just pick it up and we do the twisting and labeling ourselves here in the shop
Yeah.
to kind of take some of those pieces out of
That's
the
great.
equation.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
The first time the folks at Green Mountain were definitely like, it's okay for you to just be taking this, and we were like, yeah, like you should have an email from Julie, like it's totally fine.
We talked to her, it's okay.
we
Give us the
promise,
yarn.
just give us a trash bag full of her yarn, it's fine.
They're so nice at Green Mountain.
Oh, they're lovely.
Yeah.
But they were a little bit like,
Yeah. Different business model.
right.
But I think it's probably one that more people will be adopting in the future.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, more Canadians everywhere.
I know. I was going to mention.
Yeah.
I think there's another Canadian
Yeah.
that's here as well.
So we've got naturally dyed yarn from Sunflower Knit, which is Ash Alberg's line,
Yep.
Which is very local. Like the fiber is local and it's milled locally to them, and then they mill with, or they dye with foraged natural materials primarily. And we were carrying also Hypothesis, whose yarn was gorgeous, and she did dyeing as kind of like a side gig, and I think has stopped.
maybe.
Is that right?
I think
So
so.
we're not able to get it again. And then Shirley Bryan, who,
Oh, okay. Yes.
whose name is neither Shirley nor Brian, but I will refer to her as Shirley until the end of time, whose yarn is gorgeous and we can't keep it in the store. It's just like we get an order in and it just goes to
The
be
sock
with
yarn?
knitters.
Yeah.
Yes.
The little, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
It's funny. We were interviewing at Espastrico in Montreal,
Yeah.
and they said the same thing about her yarn. Can't keep it in.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
And she died. I think I say this looking at the hedgehog bands, which are also really good, but I
Yeah.
think she might have the best ball bands in the business, like 100% little
Yeah.
T-Rex.
Yeah.
A local dyer to us, Woolens and Nosh, who is fantastic.
Yeah, Michelle specializes in self-striping yarn.
Yes.
And she just does really fantastic work. Like her color palettes are great. Her consistency of her dye work is fantastic. We've gotten to go visit her dye studio, and her big warps that she's had built
wow.
to do the dyeing is really neat to see.
And
Yeah.
where is she? How far is she from here?
Not quite half an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, great. That's
Yeah.
perfect. That's local.
Which is
Yeah.
close for us. She's
Yeah.
just right up 91. Yeah,
Fantastic.
she's really great.
And I really love that she dyes on something other than superwash merino for her self-striping yarns.
So what
we,
is it? What
we
is she-
carry her Targi base.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's nice and wearable, but it's really sturdy, and I feel like you maybe have to darn it less frequently
Yes.
than your merino socks. So
Yeah.
it's great.
Well, we're not even through the store yet, and one of the things I love about this store is the diversity you have with respect to breeds. Like there's so much to choose from in terms of
Yeah.
yarn bases. It's fantastic.
There's so much out there.
Yeah, there is.
Like
There
how
is.
can you just
but
pick
not,
one?
but not a lot of stores just stick to merino, and it's so nice to see so many other bases. It's fantastic.
Well, all sheep are good sheep. Like they
That's-
all.
I agree with you.
They just keep making good yarn.
I agree 100%.
Our gigantic, interesting pegboard displays are from all of the Blue Sky fiber that we carry.
Mhm.
Blue Sky's a Minnesota company, and they were actually the first line of yarn that we had in the shop when we were like a little teeny tiny baby multi-purpose craft store and not specifically a yarn shop.
Yep.
We had like 6 skeins of it, and we were like, we have yarn too. Here are some shade card boxes. This is what it would look like if we had more. Let us know if you need something.
Well, that's great.
But they're fantastic partners and have been with us from the beginning.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
they just make like great yarns that people love working with.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Neighborhood Fiber Company and more Julie Aslin back here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We became a neighborhood fiber company flagship store
Last year?
last fall.
Last fall.
And everything that Karita does is golden and
And-
amazing. So
Are they're in Virginia? or-
they're in Baltimore.
Or Baltimore.
Mhm.
And then they actually also do. We'll get to the Plaid, I think.
Mhm.
But Karita is one of the collaborators on Plaid, which is also milled at Harrisville. So there's this like, we like how many mills we have around us.
Yeah, that's something. That's one thing that we're struggling with in Canada. It's just the number of mills.
Oh yeah.
But a new one started 2 months ago, which is a nice sign to see. But we've been really struggling with our mills.
Yeah, they're so. I think both of the ones that we have are historical. Green Mountain is like. Those are historical equipment. And then Harrisville is a little bit like the mill itself is historical, but they've sort of kept their equipment updated in a way that feels less
Sure.
like if you sneeze it might all break. Although really, Green Mountain Spinnery, like that will be the last thing. Like the entire city of Putney could wash away in the river, and that mill equipment would still be there because it's still there now.
Sure.
Let's see what else over here.
There is some superwash merino in here. We've got some from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and we love working with Candace. Her yarns are fantastic. And also Knit and Bro. Doug is a dyer in Philadelphia.
He's like right outside Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a newer indie
Yes.
dyer in the
Yep.
past couple of years, and his sense of color is fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
Like he's working in tiny spaces and small batches, and his palettes are just wonderful, and people just
Yeah, he's a good
enthusiastically gobble it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
fantastic.
And
Yeah.
he's wonderful to work with. We really enjoy working with him. We keep coming up with excuses to work with him more.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's a
Like,
good thing.
yeah, we're like, what if we did this wild project?
Let's ask Doug.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's the Plaid that Karen was talking about.
Yes.
Plaid launched, I think, in 2019 in the fall. But that's a collaboration it started as a collaboration between Karita Collins of Neighborhood Fiber Company and Ann Weaver, who's a knitwear designer. But their process for making this yarn is kind of unique. Harrisville mills it in singles. The singles get sent to Baltimore where they dye them, and then those singles get sent back to Harrisville where they're plied into a 2-ply marl.
Oh, yep.
And
Interesting.
yeah, it's unique. Harrisville thought that they were a little nutty when they proposed this process, but it's really lovely. And they just released a new worsted waist base, so they have 2 bases now.
And it says wool. What do you know? What is it?
It's
wool.
wool.
It's
Yeah,
wool. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's not breed specific.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yep, that's good.
Mhm.
It looks great. I like the effect.
Yeah, it knits up really beautifully, and they're wonderful to work with too.
for sure.
So you said you started off as a kind of a craft store, and then you slowly brought in yarn. What made you make the transition or the step into a yarn shop?
Because we're fiber people.
Yeah.
That's where our hearts were the whole time. Yeah.
And so what do you mean by that? Do you cover, what do you cover?
So we're
Personally.
Personally, I think we're just very knit heavy people, like
Yeah.
knit specific. But I'm enthusiastic about all things wool. I just don't necessarily want to do all things
Yes.
wool. But I
Yeah.
love it and appreciate it.
So many hours in the day.
Right. Like spinning always feels attractive to me, and then I think, you know what? So many other people have made so much good yarn. I don't need to make my own mediocre version of this.
Whereas I can feel myself falling into spinning. Like I can feel it happening. It's, the initial piece of equipment is a big investment, and so fortunately it isn't the sort of thing where I can just be like, and I do it today, and I run out to Joann's and get a spinning wheel or something. Like I'm gonna spend some time thinking about it.
Yep.
It's definitely happening.
So I read that you recently came back from Scotland. How was that?
It was fantastic.
So much fun.
How did it all happen?
So we learned about Rowan Tree Travel, which is the company that took us on this trip, from another yarn shop owner, our friend Melissa, who owns Starlight Knitting Company in Portland.
Yes.
And she told us that their trips were through Rowan Tree, and when we looked them up, we realized that Rowan Tree's here in New Hampshire. So we reached out, and Heather, the woman who owns it, came to visit us and sat here in the shop and talked with us about what kinds of things we thought sounded like fun and the different places that they go to. And we landed on Scotland basically because we asked Heather what her favorite trip to host was.
Sure.
And she said wool and whiskey for sure. And we
Oh,
said,
wow.
absolutely yes, wool and whiskey, we're in.
Let's do it.
That sounds great.
And it was originally scheduled for April of 2020.
Oh.
So the folks that came with us had stuck through a couple of
Yeah.
reschedulings.
Yeah.
It was.
And so what were some of the highlights?
Oh, everything.
Well, what did you do?
Yeah.
Like, what were some of the things that you did?
So we had a mix of like cultural experiences and like very fiber specific things. So we got to visit like a range of fiber places. We went to see like tapestries and hand stitching things, but also we got to spend time with Di Gilbin in her design studio, and went to visit places like Island at the Edge Croft up on the Isle of Skye, and spend some time like on the croft meeting the animals and like learning about the process
Sounds
there.
fantastic.
All of her animals were little troublemakers. It was amazing. Like somehow when we were in there, the cows were like having like a disco party. They'd figured out how to turn the lights off and on. Like, yeah.
That sounds amazing. And how many people in your group?
19 of us.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
size.
I think they max out at 20, and it was one of the bigger groups that they've led. And so she had, our tour guide Susie was absolutely fantastic, but she had to put the fear into our group right at the beginning, where she was like, there's a lot of you, don't be late, just everywhere we go, just don't be late. And we were like, okay.
Yes.
And we behaved. No one was late.
Everyone
didn't lose anyone.
Everyone was afraid of being abandoned.
And how long was it?
10 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a good trip. We traveled all over the country, and then out to Isle of Skye and back down, and we did amazing things.
Yeah, we got to go to the Cranach Center, which is like an Iron Age museum.
Like living history museum.
Yeah, and Cranachs are those like houses on stilts in the water kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
And they had, until recently, they had a reproduction that they had built and it had actually burned down. And so they were very apologetic about the fact that the Cranach Center
Sure.
had no Cranach, and so they brought out a bunch of textiles that they had found in like the bottom, like the cold part of the lake where, you know, there's no.
Yes.
Oh
wow.
And we were like, that's actually, like, we're very sorry to hear about your Cranach. Please don't get us wrong, but this is actually a very fair trade. Like, this is very interesting to us.
What was there color on the fiber?
Yeah, and some of it had survived.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and they had actually said that particular scrap that they were showing us, they had thought that technique had not been in the area for like a couple hundred years after that, until they found this one particular, you know, and you're like, this is the best. This is so cool.
Well, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And were most of the people from associated with this store, or how did they find out about it?
So I would say that maybe half of the people who came on the trip with us were local to us.
Yeah.
And then we had people from California, there were people from North Carolina, someone came from Hawaii. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
like knitter folks and their friends from all over came, and some of the people we knew prior to the trip and lots of people we met in the airport.
Oh, that's great.
Which was exciting.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic.
You could tell, we were like sitting in the airport, we'd been a little bit thinking, you know, nobody's traveled, like we hadn't traveled anyway, like like we may get to the airport and find out the airports don't exist anymore, and then we get there and we're like, okay, we have to like find this group, right, because the tour guide's meeting us in Scotland, and then there are people knitting.
Yeah.
We're like, haha,
Yeah.
our people.
So usually a good clue.
Yeah.
So I noticed that the owners of the store, women,
Mhm.
LGBTQ, Indigenous,
Mhm.
and veteran.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So there are three of us, and Travis, who is not here today,
Yep.
is our veteran
Okay.
owner of the shop. And he is Dakota, and he's mixed race.
Sure.
His dad was white, and his mom is Indigenous. So there are a variety of us here in the store, and we're all a big happy family,
That's fantastic.
knitting and working together. He doesn't knit though.
Does he
our-
crochet, or is
He
he?
doesn't knit.
is he
No,
good?
not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're working
That's
on
that's.
it.
It's good to have a different perspective, though.
Yes.
Because we can get too knit focused or whatnot. I think it's great to have
Yeah.
a different perspective on it.
Well, and his background is in painting,
Oh,
and so
okay.
his like color sense
Oh, yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so he's the like, if you want help picking colors, like, well, basically just don't ask me. Like Jessica will help you pick colors, and then Travis will like issue the final verdict on the selection of colors. And
We have different color aesthetics.
Yes.
But we both have very clear visions of what those colors and combinations could be.
One of the things I love about the store is there's definitely personality in the store. Like you can feel it as soon as you walk in. It doesn't look just like a yarn shop. It looks like this has been. There's been a lot of thought in terms of the way that it's been set up, and it feels cozy, but it definitely has a personality to it, which is fantastic. It's really nice.
oh, thanks. Yeah,
We like to have fun with it.
it is really fun.
It's been on my bucket list for a couple of years to come and visit you, so I'm glad that we were able to make the trip.
Yeah.
We love having visitors.
It's great.
So this is fun.
One thing I didn't ask you about was your podcast.
Oh yeah.
So talk a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah.
How did it come about?
Podcast.
How did it come about, and what do you like about it?
So our podcast is called Make Good, and it is an audio podcast. We don't have a YouTube channel, and we kind of awkwardly and reluctantly sometimes do Instagram lives, so that's fun.
Usually about halfway through the Instagram live, we're like, this is actually why we're an audio only podcast.
We need someone to edit us and keep us focused.
Yeah.
Which is where Travis's strongest skill
Oh,
set
yes.
is He's like, if you say anything cringy, it's gone. Nobody wants to listen to you breathe. It's gone. So he really buttons us up and makes it a listenable experience.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, sometimes it takes us 8 tries to get a word out or something where you're like, just none of those syllables were the syllables I meant. You would never know.
And when did you start it? Because are you at 70 or how many?
Yeah, something like that. We started during the pandemic.
Wow.
While
Good for you.
While our store was closed,
Yes.
because we had a period of time where our doors were locked for, I don't know,
7 months, something like that. It was a long time.
Yeah.
More than half a year, and
Yeah.
we were feeling a little stir crazy because we were still coming to work every day and like taking care of online orders.
Sure.
But we're just like bouncing around in here and like moving the furniture and doing electrical work because we're like, we have to do something.
But if we rearrange the store, no one but us will ever see it. But let's just rearrange it again for fun.
And at some point we were like, maybe we need to do something to stay connected with knitters because it's just us in here. And that's kind of where the podcast came
Sure.
from. It was our effort to like stay connected to the community because we figured if we were this cooped up, clearly other people were too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're fortunate that we live in a place where like there's lots of opportunity to not be cooped up. Like we have tons of beautiful green spaces outdoors.
It's
like
gorgeous here.
we're so fortunate that we're not on like the 15th floor of a building somewhere in a city where like we are really cooped up.
Yeah.
So having that feeling of like being connected to other people who share your interests
Sure.
was important to us, and it turned out that other people thought it was important too because the response to the podcast has been nothing but like really enthusiastic and supportive, and the people that we've met through that have been fantastic.
That's great. That's great. Where can people find you?
Everywhere that has podcasts, I think.
Yeah.
Your podcast, which they can just Google, or what's the best way to find that? Is it on?
I think all the podcast platforms, right?
So somehow, even like 2 years into this, podcast distribution is very mysterious to me, but I think we are a lot of, so we're on like Apple Music and Spotify and Google and all.
Amazon.
It goes somehow.
Sure.
Audible?
Probably.
Somebody emailed us recently and said that they were listening to us on Audible.
Yeah. But we have a website with links to all the different places that we know of, and it's makegoodpod.com, and then we are on Instagram at makegoodpod, and have one of those little, like, it's not a link tree, but one of those like link in bio things with all the links there too. And I think if you just search for the name in like a platform, there's one with like a sheep. There's a couple other ones that are like,
Make good choices.
yeah,
Sure.
But if it has a sheep, it's the right one.
Yeah. and one thing I didn't ask you, which should have been probably the most obvious question, the name. Where did the name come from? Of the store.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew what you meant.
Okay,
People
good.
ask us that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Because we make things from scratch. Like,
Oh,
we're making
of
it
course.
from nothing. And
Yeah.
I used to be a baker before we opened the shop. So I was like the pie lady, and I made all my pastries from scratch.
Oh
so
my
like you just
gosh.
make it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And so finding you on Instagram, Facebook, you're in all of the social media things? A lot of them?
Instagram, we abandoned our Facebook account some
Sure.
years ago.
Yeah.
It's still there because Meta makes you have it, I guess, but we don't do anything with
So
it.
Instagram
Yeah,
Yeah.
and our website,
and your website. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what?
scratchsupplyco.com.
Excellent. Fantastic. It's been so nice talking
Yeah.
to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
We're really glad
this
you
has
came to
been
visit.
lovely.
And thank you so much for sharing your store as well. It's so beautiful. And Jamie, thank you for filming.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
What an amazing yarn shop. I felt so comfortable and at home as soon as we walked through the front door.
It was so bright. There was all that window at the front and that beautiful sitting area. There was that retro sofa.
Yeah,
and
I love
a
that.
beautiful area to sit and, really meet the community and people. I mean, with COVID, they mentioned they hadn't been for a while. They hadn't had, these get-togethers, but what a beautiful, cozy little area. And the decor was amazing, and colors and wool everywhere.
Yeah, and that's what I love going into yarn shops that have so much character to them, and it was beautiful. It was I was so happy. That was such a great trip. I loved it.
And the two of them, how much fun were they?
I know.
And they're like, they're feeling like they're a little bit shy, but then they weren't shy at all, were they?
No,
not one bit. And
no.
it was they're so much fun. They're so what's the word? They're so. What am I trying to say?
Sounds like. How many syllables?
I was going to say presentable, but that's not what I got. They're so
accommodating and friendly. Is that what you mean?
All of the above. Yeah.
And knowledgeable as well. So I didn't leave the yarn shop without buying some yarn. Surprise. So
I don't remember.
So
that,
while you were talking,
I remember being drawn though to there were two in particular colors that you would have seen that in the video, because I don't know if that's in there or not, but we talked about it, because I was really drawn to these colors that look like all natural colors that were they were so beautiful. And then it was also the colors that were the marled, the dyed marled I was drawn to, but
And so I'm always interested in local dyers. And so Woolens and Nosh from Michelle. Michelle is a local dyer. And so I would never, ever pair these two colors together.
Okay.
And so that's what immediately drew me to these. Because I just thought, wow, they'll look great as socks, as a toe. But I would never think about that on my own. I would never think about pairing this with this one. So I love that.
I love these different shades of blue. There's blue and beigey, greeny, like olivey, beige. But those are incredible blues I love. So that would just pop up against that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Super nice. So.
And what kind of wool is it?
It is 90% Targi, 10% nylon.
Oh, both?
Yeah.
So they're the same. Oh, very nice. And of course they're super soft. Do you know why they're so soft? I know.
I have a feeling I'm going to find out why they're so soft.
I know why it's soft. Should we talk about the Targi?
Jamie, do you want to talk about the Targi sheep?
I know a little something about it. Now, actually, it is a little something.
Hold on, I think you know a lot of something about it. Not a lot of
No,
something
because
about
actually, it's interesting, because I went to the U.S. Targi Sheep Breeders Association, and they were established in 1951.
Why did you go to the U.S. one?
Well, they're a U.S. breed.
Yes.
They're a very young breed, like a fairly newer breed of sheep, because they were developed in the early 1900s. But there's not that much information about it. It's interesting, because when I do a little research on any other breed, especially at the association, most of them, there's a true history, and why and how and exactly how they interbred them and crossbred them to get the final result.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this is there are a few interesting bits. So they are a mixed breed of. So I mentioned they were early 1900s, and reasons for breeding, interbreeding sheep is because you want a better quality meat and a better quality, high lustrous, beautiful wool. And they're primarily bred for their wool. They're an all-white sheep, and so they crossbred them. Now, the information varies on just one little thing. So it mentions, genetics are Rambouillet, Corriedale, and Lincoln Longwool. But then it was also mentioned elsewhere, Columbia. So this, I'll save the Columbia for last, because this is what's interesting.
How does that all happen? And that makes a Targi?
Yeah, because what's interesting is this. So if it's a mix of these breeds, one tidbit was the Columbia. Well, the Columbia is a mix of Rambouillet. It's a bred sheep, Rambouillet, with the Lincoln Longwool. So Rambouillet, we talked about it 100 times because I love it, and it's merino. It's 100% pure merino. It's a French merino. They were the sheep directly from Spain, from the king at the time, brought them up, sent them over to France. It's just a French name. It is merino.
I think I'm going to have to put a whiteboard on here to follow all of this.
No, it's going to be simple. So Columbia, Rambouillet, Lincoln Longwool.
Got it.
Lincoln Longwool is, it's a sheep that goes back hundreds of years, British sheep. It's got the most lustrous and the longest staples of all sheep.
Yeah.
That's why most of these newer breeds, or interbred even way back when, is to get the longer staple for long, lustrous, beautiful staples of
and
wool.
it's fantastic.
And they mix it with the merino, because the merino, we all know, you all love merino, we know what it's about, it's soft. So the Columbia, Rambouillet, Lincoln long wool. But then in itself, it says it's bred with Rambouillet, which is merino. It's bred with a Lincoln long wool, which I mentioned why, and Corriedale. And Corriedale is merino and Lincoln long wool. So it all comes back to the same breed.
Sounds
it's
like
all
a-
very incestuous.
Sounds like a party to me.
Exactly. So bottom line, you get super soft wool because of all of the merino genetics.
And so when you say super soft, what's the micron count?
Well, this one is 21 to 25 micron count.
Okay.
And a merino, a pure merino, is, 19, no, what is it? 19
well,
to 21
You can
roughly?
get,
Yeah, so even 21. So you're at 21. You're right on the fence with the merino, and it's practically all merino. So why they breed them, and this is why I question, like, if the Columbia already has the Rambouillet and the Lincoln long wool, and the Corriedale already has the merino and Lincoln long wool, that one's the Columbia is Rambouillet. Why this? But it's always for adaptability, we forget. Adaptability to the conditions and the landscape and the environment. So most of these, they were bred at the U.S. Sheep Experimentation Station in Idaho, in the U.S. Now, the Targhee names comes from the Targhee National Forest, which was where the station was, and that's where they grazed, and they took the name from the Targhee National Forest. And today they're mostly found in the northern states, the harsher conditions, and that's North Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana.
Okay.
So it's a very popular wool.
And it picks
And
up
that's the Targhee.
Well, it picks up. Thank you for that. It picks up the color nicely, and it's soft. So
It's soft.
So it's a great benefit to knitters.
I mean, you could just see how well this took to this color. It's absolutely stunning in this.
I
as
wouldn't
well.
say it's like butter, but it's pretty close.
Oh,
It's pretty close.
well. This, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between this and a merino. Maybe Kiviat, yes. Merino, I would say no. Especially when you wind it and put it in a skein, it's pretty soft.
Okay, here's how I define it. I would say that this is skin soft. You can still
absolutely.
you can still put it on your skin.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very nice. I love it. So that was our trip to Scratch Supply Company, and it was fantastic. Super excited. It was terrific.
Yeah.
Oh, and they have a podcast.
Yes,
well.
they do.
Yeah,
That's
so,
why they were comfortable in front of the camera.
That's right. Well, no, but they
I
wouldn't
was
have.
trying to say they were very personable because
No, but they wouldn't have a camera for the podcast.
No, that's right. That's right. Because
So forget
that's
that
the
theory.
conversation we were having. Because I said, because that's why they were being a little bit shy. And I'm thinking, well, no, you speak, but they're so.
Okay, well, it could have been
personable.
that, or you had a coffee before you went in.
Or they had coffee or something to keep them very.
Yeah.
They were wonderful and they were great on camera. I told them that. I told them that they need to start their own live.
Oh my
in
gosh!
person.
Yes. So
Because why just have a voice when the two of you? They're these two lovely ladies, attractive, personable. I loved their tattoos. I love their body, their expressions, their facial expressions. They were smiling the
they
whole
are
time.
great. The camera loves them.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
In the beginning, and I'm saying it now.
Yeah. And Travis can be the camera person.
Well,
So that he doesn't have to be. He doesn't
He's
have to be
obviously
in front of
behind
the
the scenes. 'Cause we didn't need him.
Anyway, so that we had a lot of fun.
Travis, where are you?
And then we'll meet Travis the next time we go down, because I definitely want to go back. And so the next day, I had heard about a place in Vermont to go swimming.
Okay. Yes.
And Rock River. And so we thought, okay, well, we have time to go down to Rock River before we get to the retreat.
We did have time because
And it was hot. It was hot that day.
we had a full day ahead of us of driving, and it was not too far away.
Yeah. So I was really excited about this. And they have 5 pools. It's the river and then pools in various areas you can go swimming in these
And
pools.
it's all these sandy little coves and
It's so
beaches
nice.
along the river. It was a little bit of a we
It
found
was a hike. Yeah. It's.
Well, to find it.
Well,
off the
I
highway.
can't believe we found it.
Well, there were a couple of parked cars, but then it was like, where do we go from here? Because it's just it says there's a little grassy parking area along the highway, which is just a secondary tiny little side road, really.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, it was that way.
Yeah, and it was super nice. So I
The bridge
can't wait to
we
go
went
back
up. Yeah.
there as well. highly recommend that.
Yeah, and hiking through the woods was beautiful.
Yeah.
A little slippery slopes at times.
Well,
It was rocky. We had to literally claw our way along the side of the rocks.
Well, and it didn't help when we got there. It started raining.
Oh, it just started spitting a little bit, so it made the rocks a little slippery, and we don't want a fall on the rocks.
No.
And you think about a river, you think fast moving. I'm not all that thrilled about swimming in the first place, but these little coves where it's just, if you imagine the river, it's just deep in the center, maybe up to your waist, but mostly you could just, I didn't go past my waist anyway, and it didn't get much deeper than that. So absolutely beautiful and stunning, and we definitely need to go back there.
Yeah.
And we had heard that just the weekend before there were dozens and dozens of people.
There were like 50 cars in the parking lot, 100 cars in the parking lot that weekend.
But there were like a handful of people there because it was a little overcast.
There were people camping there.
And that was and we forgot, because when we left, they were calling for severe weather warnings.
I know.
Which, that's why nobody went out, because it was like tornado weather down
Except
there.
for the two Canadians who...
Yeah, because remember, on a dime, and you mentioned that the weather changes there on a dime because of the mountains and the humidity and beautiful sunshine, and then next thing you know, I mean, that wind, we had to pull off to the side of the road, remember?
Yeah.
There were branches coming down and trees blowing. It turned black, and we're driving, and thank goodness we got back to the car. But on our way, when we continued, it's like, that's why nobody was down at the river, because there were tornado warnings for all we know. Severe weather advisories.
So
time to travel.
I think I held my shirt out of the car window when we went back, or my pants, to dry them off because they were soaking wet. Because we were.
Yeah, well, we had to cross the river to get back on the trail, and it was a little slippery, and I tried to hike my shorts up as high as I could without,
They turned into Daisy Duke shorts.
My Daisy Dukes, they still got wet because I didn't want them to get wet crossing the river. I mean, should have just gotten a swimsuit, or even less, because there was nobody there.
Well, the whole point though was that there's, I guess, from pool 4 onward,
it's clothing.
It's clothing optional. So that's So anyway,
when in nature,
be in nature.
There are a few. It was lovely.
So then we got into our car and headed to the retreat.
Yes.
And so we took a little footage. So
we did.
Yeah.
So we'll have a look at that.
Yeah, check it out.
We had just arrived at Easton Mountain after a beautiful drive. It was about 6 hours.
And it went by like so fast. It was absolutely stunning and beautiful, as you saw. But it's my first time. And you know what? In life, there are only so many firsts. I'm very, very excited to be here. This has been 10 years in the making, because Christopher, you were here for the first time just before we met.
Yes.
And I've been wanting to come since 10 years, and I am finally here.
You're a lambkin. This is your first year.
Is that what it's called?
Yes. Yep. So I can't wait to show you the sights. So come along and we'll show you Easton Mountain.
So that would just give you a little peek into what the Men's Canadian retreat looks like. But what did you think? This was your first retreat.
Well, first of all,
lambkin.
We didn't get a whole lot of footage because we were so excited about being there, and there were events, there were workshops, there were people, real people in person, live. It was wonderful. Friends we hadn't seen in a long time, a few years, new friends. Overall, it's all well with me. I love the people, so I love to make new friends.
So how do you make new friends?
Hi! Do you want to be my friend?
No, so this is how Jamie makes friends. He lines up an act with another person, Peter Crane, and they do performance art for us.
Well, that was... We tried to make it seem like it was just on a whim, but I said, okay, this is what we're going to do, Peter. I hadn't met Peter before, but I met his uncle because at one of the, when we were in P-Town, it's interesting
Provincetown.
because, yes, Provincetown, John's been here to the cabin, and this is his nephew. And we see him in photos and his travels and his knitting and because, John's connection. So I said to him, okay, I saw him do a little bit of performance art on his videos and then, on Instagram and Facebook. So I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Why don't we have, because before everybody arrives, before the official retreat starts, which was on Thursday, we're there Monday, so we had a couple of days prior to just enjoy the landscape and meet people, have a couple of cocktails. So we thought we'd do a little show and tell, more show than tell. So we had a Canada versus US.
Yeah, dance off. I'd say it was a dance off.
A dance off, a lip sync and a singing.
Lip sync for your life, dance off.
There was a singing, a lip sync, and a dance off.
Yeah.
In costume, of course.
And everyone was entertained.
And
that's
there
how you
were
make
no
friends.
Winners. We had our version.
Well, you say there's no winners. You're both
winners. That's what I mean. There was no winner. We were both, because we said it was going to be a competition. So
yeah.
So what were some of your highlights? There were a couple of
what were some of your highlights?
So the highlights were, I said.
Did I cut you off?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
because I was just going to say the biggest thing we had Canada-US. So he sang the US national anthem in his own words.
Yes.
And I did the Canadian national anthem, and from there we just had fun. And then at the end, it wasn't really a competition. We just had a good time, and everybody had a good time, I think.
Yes, they did. Fun was had by all.
Yes.
And that is how you make friends.
Sure. Or push the way go. Okay then.
Yeah, we had enough of her.
Good luck with that one. That's the favorite line when we've met people in this. Good luck with that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or drama follows this one everywhere he
Yes.
goes.
Yeah.
That's the other famous line.
Okay, so what were some of your highlights?
Meeting the people.
Yes.
And the where we were was beautiful and incredible.
Near Saratoga Springs.
Yeah, and I love that we could just chill out in the sauna, which is so nice after a long, hard day at the workshops. That was nice. And knitting and lounging around. The show and tell was a highlight. I mean,
I was waiting for you to say that.
There were very many talented people who've been knitting for, different stages. Even if you were someone who were knitting for a very short period of time, let's say a year, incredible designs and projects, and some of them with the intricacies of shawls with all that fine I can't even imagine. It's just so blows my mind. It's something I would think that I couldn't even do it, but I guess if you follow a pattern and you follow it precisely, but the intricacies, I'm not going there. Not yet anyway.
Do you think maybe this year you'll learn how to read a pattern? Do you have any interest in doing that?
Oh, do you need to know how to read a pattern to knit?
No.
I would know. I just knit a beautiful sweater that's I talk about this stupid sweater I've had forever. But I must say, my first sweater, and I love it, and I'm impressed because I'm more shocked that I actually have a finished garment.
You got a lot of compliments on your sweater.
I was shocked. I really was. I mean, people said some of the nice... people who are advanced knitters, let's say, and they mentioned how they couldn't believe that was my first sweater, and that impressed me because I don't know what makes it good.
Do I need to get a Kleenex box?
Why?
Are you going to tear up?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. Save it for the camera for later. We're getting to that climax. We need a good cry.
Well, I got you seemed like you had a great time, so I'm really happy for you.
I did.
Yeah.
And the food was delicious. That was a highlight.
Oh my gosh, the food was amazing. It was
the food was very good.
It was really good.
Every meal was delicious, and
and that's saying something.
I made a friend in the kitchen. You don't remember. Because I said, where's the breakfast cake? Because, every retreat has to have a breakfast cake. Breakfast cake or breakfast pie is the cake or pie from the night before, because there was always dessert.
Yes.
There was dessert at lunch and dinner, especially at dinner. So my new friend knew of my sweet tooth, and breakfast time or lunch, he would bring me a special dessert that was from the night before, and
that's
I'd
nice.
have my breakfast cake or my dessert with my pie, and I tried to kind of hide that because I didn't want to feel like I was getting preferred treatment.
Yeah.
But I was. That's what friends are for.
That's what friends are for, preferential treatment. Well, so I want to mention something about the retreat.
Yes.
Thank you for
what was
asking.
your highlights?
I would say one of them was seeing you experience it was great. Seeing all the smiles on your face every day, but also the one of the workshops I took was fantastic. Greg Sabata taught a mini sweater class, which was fantastic. I think
so good.
I think everyone needs to take this class because you can learn concepts of sweater construction, and you can do it in 2 hours. So
that's really
done.
amazing.
And so anyway,
and it's totally to what would you call that? Like it's totally to what do you call that? The ratio is perfect. Like it's a perfect sweater for my Barbie dolls. I'll have to pull them out of my tickle trunk.
I have Action Man. You have what do you
I
have?
had G.I. Joe.
Okay.
I
Mine
had
was
3
British.
sisters. They had Barbies. I had a G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe met Barbie.
And I had Action Man. So anyway, but before we even get to the sweater, I just showed you the main event before I got to it. So we're sitting there in class, and Greg pulls out a package for everyone.
Oh.
And I just, oh my gosh, he's completely raised the level of any class that I've ever taught in terms of stuff in here.
When you teach next, you're going to have
well, the bar is pretty high. And so there is so much stuff in here.
I don't remember all of this.
I don't show you everything.
It doesn't tell me everything.
So in this bag, so the bags are made, and then
there's a whole lot of stuff.
And then there's pens and pencils and highlighters. Oh, there's even a mint and Post-its. Oh, there's a chocolate in here. I didn't see. You can have that. But there's stitch markers, I think, are in here. And
so good.
And then, but here's I mean, they're all great. But here, there's a notebook with a sweater sticker on it.
Fantastic.
But here is the great part. So these are all the patterns. So you can you can just take this and you can put so many different patterns on it. So this is the snowman, dreidel, tree, reindeer.
Oh,
and
what's this?
All
the snowman.
Oh my god!
I did have a good look at it. It was showing everybody else but me. Snowman. Yeah, so there's all kinds of reindeer. Yeah, so really what you can do is you can knit these and put them on your tree if you have a tree, or hang them in your window, or put them on presents. That would be great to just string them all along. That would be a great decor.
And what I found interesting
you better get to work
is that it's very similar to the Christmas balls that I knit.
Yeah, I could see that. Except for they just don't go around.
Yeah, so I'll have to look at this and look at this pattern.
You could use those on your Christmas balls.
Yeah, if the ratio is correct. Definitely. Yeah.
That looks like it'll fit on a ball. You just
roll
it in the ball.
A big ball. But I mean I can change this a little bit. But anyway, it's that was fantastic. You'll
have to come up with some big balls to put those patterns on them.
Maybe we already do.
I know.
So anyway, this was I love this. This class was great, and I'll be knitting a lot of these sweaters. It's fantastic. So that was the retreat, and we did.
And I also did a workshop.
Oh, you did? Yes.
Because I bought a spinning wheel, but I didn't bring it. A giant spinning wheel.
How many spinning wheels do you have?
2. Okay. But the first one.
How many functional ones do you have?
Well, they're both can be functional, but the one is absolutely functional because the woman I bought it up just down the road over there in one of the little towns over, she used it regularly, and so it's completely ready to go.
Is this the one that's held together with wire?
No, there's nothing. There's not one of them held together with wire.
Okay.
They're like in perfect condition.
No, I thought we picked up one that was a couple towns over and it was not functional?
No,
Okay.
it's functional.
Okay.
It's missing one wooden peg.
Okay.
But this one is complete, and so the other one I'm going to sell it.
Yeah.
Which there's a market for these stamped antique turn of the century. I mean, I think it's from the 1880s? It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's too big to bring, so I didn't bring it. So I got to practice on my teacher's Aaron's wheel for a bit, and it was exciting.
Oh, good.
And
So
I
did you
learned.
get the bug? Like, did you have the spinning
No.
bug?
Because it seems very. There's too many moving parts, literally.
Well, you have to keep.
I mean,
you
I
have to
have
keep
to-
at it, and that'll be muscle memory.
I have to do this, and I have to use my foot. It's kind of when you do that thing like this.
But could you
So I'm
talk while
gonna-
you were doing it?
No, and I can't even do this. I could never do that when it's like, oh yeah, you rub your tummy and pat your head. No, it's not working for me. So this at the foot going at and keep that foot going at a speed,
Yeah.
and then this without going like, I don't know. I'm going to give it a go. I haven't given up on it because we have fleece, and you've bought fleece, and it's
Yeah.
something that I'm still going to keep trying.
Excellent.
Take another workshop.
Was there anything else you wanted to mention on the workshop?
Oh,
Or anything else?
What else on the workshop? That's the only one I had, I think.
Yeah.
No, I had another one with you.
You had crochet.
Oh, that's right. The crochet. See? Another one I was thinking I was going to pick up. I did okay
I
with it.
Here's what so I crochet I just make chains for Christmas ornaments and stuff like that. But I will tell you that I found crochet more challenging than knitting.
I did too.
So
I had to think too much, and then I don't know. The knots were. I couldn't follow. There were parts of it I couldn't follow, and then I would get part of it right. Then all right, that's just doing like a link, like a chain link.
Yeah.
And it was that. But like something you've got to practice and learn it. But knitting, I don't know. It's been a long time. I mean, since I actually picked up those needles, it's been a few years now.
Yeah.
So
that'll be
seems
put on
like
the shelf
something-
for a little while, and then I'll go back to that. I think.
Yeah. And what else? Anything? Any last?
The other thing is we went into Saratoga Springs, and
Yes, we did.
we went to the hat shop,
Went to a hat shop.
and we had so much fun in the hat shop.
Oh my gosh, the owner. We had a chat with her.
We actually
A good
went
chat.
back to the hat shop when we left.
Yeah, we went back.
We had so much fun.
And you bought a wonderful hat, but
Yeah.
there were some over-the-top hats there, but absolutely everything you think of.
I love
in
specialty
terms of-
shops.
Yeah, in terms of traditional hats,
Yeah.
fancy wedding hats or fancy lady hats, and all price points and classic, beautifully constructed hats.
Yep. So that was our road trip. It was fantastic, and loved it, and can't wait to go back into that area.
And like you mentioned, the road, and the getting there and the driving back, a lot of people think like, oh, they often just want to get to their destination, but we always make pit stops along the route, anything interesting.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the adventure. And I love the travel time. I find it stress-free, especially when you're not in a hurry, you just take your time, and that whole part of it, going through some uncharted territory that I've not been, was great.
Yep. So we had 2 interviews on that trip. One of them was the Scratch Supply Company, and the other one was Junction Fiber Mill,
And
which was in
that's-
an earlier episode,
Yeah.
and that was a lot of
Same.
fun.
That was on the way. Now, how far was it from our destination? It was
Not
really,
very far.
It was really,
like an hour,
Yeah.
half or 2 hours or something like that, but it wasn't very far.
yeah, it wasn't far at all.
But the reason I'm mentioning it is because we also had a bunch of other interviews that happened afterwards.
Okay, remind me.
Okay, well, you were in some of them. So
So,
one of them was with Irina Shar,
yes,
Fiberchats.
so much fun.
We had been trying to get together for a number of months, and we finally made it happen.
Yes,
And I thought it was amazing. I thought the interview. We don't know Irina. We didn't know her before that, but the questions that she asked,
yes.
I thought were fantastic, and there were questions that people have never asked us before, and so I just hats off, Irina. She's very talented. She's a very talented interviewer.
Yeah, and in a very intelligent way, because
Yes.
it's not just we could talk about fiber and we could talk about colors but she asked these very, very pointed questions that were very specific, and she did her research. Well, she told us, but I thought, how do you know that? She'd bring up things I'm thinking, how do you know that? And she went on a marathon, and she watched, I think she said practically, almost every episode.
A lot of.
She did a marathon of episodes, and so she did her research, and she kind of knew us, I think, And where she didn't know us or know things about us, she specifically asked.
Yes.
Maybe things that didn't come across in our episodes.
So I'll put a link to that so you can see it. But I really enjoyed it.
It was so much fun. We had quite a few laughs. It's very down to earth and wonderful, and it was a lovely, lovely way to spend an afternoon.
Yes, and that rolled into another interview. Where you provided content for one of her other episodes.
Yes, because sometimes I bake or cook in this thing behind us, or I just cook or bake.
And so, what did you bake?
I baked one of my very favorite banana chocolate cakes. And it's like a banana bread, but it's chocolate, but it's kind of like a cake, kind of like a bread. But I hadn't done it in the beehive, fireplace oven before. I baked other breads. I baked bread in there that turned out beautifully, and I baked a few things. And most of the time, every time I baked in there, it's only been, we haven't done it just for the sake of doing it. We've done it for this.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I am a benefactor of it.
Yeah,
you get to eat it.
And everything's turned out. Everything has turned out, which is incredible. So that was a fairly simple recipe that I love to make because it turns out beautifully every time. And as I mentioned, that oven, as long as it's hot, like the old days, you didn't have a temperature gauge, just hot oven. Heat it up, let it heat up for a few hours. Yeah. So that's what I did. And what I loved about, we watched the episode, the cooking episodes.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that. What does that look like?
That was amazing. I mean, the diversity of, the different ethnic dishes from all over the world, pretty much. It was just fascinating, learned a lot, and there was one that was my favorite. It was that microwave chocolatey thingy, which I'm going to do, and I haven't yet.
I thought you were going to say the one that was the woman from Shetland who was cooking out of her trunk.
Oh, they were all amazing.
I know well, you have to check it out. It was really
incredible.
Nice. Yeah,
she was cooking bannocks, which I've done a bannock here, and I think did I do the bannock in that oven, or I can't remember. I did the bannock.
You usually do it over fire, so it's possible that you did it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't remember,
but I'll put a link so you can check that out as well. And then there was just one more interview, I think, with Vogue. Did an interview with Vogue.
They wanted a specialist,
and it was really focusing on the spinners, and so
yes.
So that was a fun interview as well. So those were our interviews, I think, during that period of time. That was a lot of fun. We didn't mention Pride. The Pride.
Yeah, because Pride, the last day of Pride Month was yesterday, because today is Canada Day, July 1st. So.
But there's two stories I want to talk about, though.
Okay.
The first one is the Red Dress Day. So we were participating in a fundraiser, and so we dressed in red dresses and went to this fundraiser for
the Red Dress Ball.
The Red Dress Ball, and proceeds went to people living with AIDS. So, and they have it every year.
Yeah, and they hadn't had it. Well, we had only been to one before, hadn't we? And then it was the 5th anniversary, but they haven't had it in the last couple of years. So, incredible costumes and amazing people, and it was so much fun.
And I actually didn't have time to make anything. Well, not that I could make it, but to design anything. So I wore the one that I wore in 2019.
Could you believe it?
But I wore it with a different attitude.
So did I.
So no one would know.
Exactly. It was all new attitudes. So it was fantastic, and it was a big hit. It's a fantastic. You had more compliments than most. I mean,
It was the attitude.
It was the attitude that went with it.
I was just so happy.
The whole look was good. So it was a good time all around.
And then last weekend we went. I had to give a talk or just a speech on Pride just right before the parade, and after that we were on a float, and we were right behind Canada's Drag Race,
which was we had some back. Maybe we'll show a little bit of that. We had some behind the scenes as we were lining up for the parade on one of the back roads. Yeah. And there were Canada's drag superstars.
Yeah.
And it was.
And we were on a float with a drag queen. So
yes, and she was so much fun.
Suki Doll is so nice.
Sweet.
Season 2. And Priyanka we were talking to Priyanka beforehand.
She was wonderful.
She is a sweetheart.
So friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we
also had a little photo with the other one.
Okay, hold on a second. Listen to the excitement in our voice when we're talking about this.
You always sound more excited than you do about the wool. I've never seen you so excited.
But here's what happened. So we were on a float from 1 o'clock.
Gosh. Well, we were getting ready to get on at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. So we got on the float maybe at 1:30. And then
Ish.
we didn't really get going until, and this is to the Toronto Pride Parade. Millions, like there's
definitely 500,000 people watching. 'Cause
Oh,
they're
it was
always up.
huge. It was huge. And this year, they didn't have any barriers. So there were no barriers. So basically,
street.
it's I don't know how many miles or kilometers the parade is, but there were no barriers at all. So
the route,
people
so-
were just rubbed up against the floats. And
So it's just like this parade going through mobs. I mean, thousands of people on either side down the entire way. It was
And we were dancing.
mind-blowing.
Dancing from 2, the DJ was phenomenal.
Yes,
And we were
she
dancing.
was so much fun.
Dancing from 2 until 6 o'clock at night. We didn't finish the parade until 6
My
o'clock at night.
legs. Yeah, 6 o'clock we got to the end of the parade route. I think it was slowed down by the crowds on the street. Because literally,
It was
if
insane.
you see it on the news, it's incredibly insane.
Yeah.
But so much fun. But I mean, how do you keep up that energy? Like, woo, we're having a good time. I kept putting my hat on. It was sunshade. We had water. But it was so much fun being out
It
there.
was.
It was an experience for sure.
Yeah, and Suki Doll again. She was amazing, and she just think all this she was wearing. Like, we couldn't complain because
And the other-
I was in a t-shirt and shorts,
and-
and she had so much stuff on, and I just thought, oh
And the
my
new
gosh.
friends I met from, your some of your colleagues from Halifax who were there.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
They were so much fun. So it was great to be on the float with all of them.
Yeah.
We had a good time at the back of the float.
So that was great.
So that was
I
our
loved it.
pride.
Yep. And so now we have to announce the winner.
The winner.
The winner.
Oh yes. And what were we drawing for?
We are drawing for a package, which is here. This is the Edmonton Fibre Frolic.
Now this was talking about a prize package. There are literally hundreds of dollars of goods in here, isn't there?
Oh,
There's-
yeah.
Everything is
Yeah.
in here. Everything. And so there is one lucky winner.
Yeah, and so the deal was basically name some of the vendors that were at the Edmonton Fibre.
Yeah, and some of the
Frolic.
contributors, which we named.
Yeah.
We named just about everybody that were contributors here.
And so many people participated in it.
So if you paid attention, you'd know who they were, and all you have to do is mention that.
Yeah.
No, mention a couple of them, did you?
Yeah, I think
What was it?
five.
And so,
And so we went through the list and randomly picked one, and there's Maureen McBride who won. So congratulations, Maureen, for winning this amazing package. It's fantastic.
and thank you for to the Edmonton Fibre Frolic for having us partaken on this, because
Yeah.
that makes it fun for us as well.
Yeah.
And so, how will Maureen contact us to get her?
Oh
bag
my
of
gosh,
goodies?
details. So Maureen,
Track us down somewhere.
Maureen, you can reach us on Instagram at Cabin Boy Knits, or you can reach us at YouTube. But send me your email address so we can. I'll know you the address so I can mail it off to you.
And we'll have this to you. as
But there's
soon
tons
as
of yarn in here, and it's
That's
a great gift.
wonderful gift.
Yeah. So what's coming up next?
What's coming out? Oh my gosh. Well, the workshop is just about complete.
Yay!
We've just got to get the hot water tank connected because we need hot water.
But we can still use it.
I still use it because we can boil the water. We've got all the electrical, everything's on the
Yeah.
go. So looking forward to. We need to produce wool.
Are we gonna? Yeah, but are we gonna do a tour sometime of the workshop?
Maybe.
Is it tour ready?
No,
Not yet, but it will
not
be
yet,
soon.
'cause it's not quite up and running. We're gonna move more stuff in there, the products and everything.
That's what we're doing this weekend.
That's what we're gonna do because it is a long weekend. We have today off.
Yes.
And we're doing this, spending time with all of you. And we're going to get the shop up and running because we need to produce, because we've got the Twist Festival.
Yeah. So
largest in Canada.
but there's some
north of Montreal.
25,000 people in the last one. So it's a huge festival.
And it's their 10th anniversary.
Yes. So yeah, super excited about that. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so I'll put the dates there, and I'll put a link to Twist as well.
Because mes amis francophones, les Français sont, there are so much fun. The Francophones. And we
that's
love
why Twist
the
is so great.
Quebecers. And
Yeah.
they're so hometown. It's like small town meets everybody, friendliness. We love going. We're going to see people we haven't seen in quite some time
Yes.
as well. So it's going to be very, very exciting for
Yeah.
all of us,
and
everyone involved.
And we have something going on right now, which is the Southeastern Yarn Crawl. And so
That's right.
those of you in the area who want to partake in that, our yarn is at Rustic Roots in Sterling, Ontario.
Sterling, the little town over the hill.
Yeah,
Wonderful shop, lots of wool.
yeah.
Cabin Boy Knits wool. And there's a wonderful prize to be won there as well.
Yeah.
If you pop in.
And we are doing we're going to, do we have a festival after Twist?
Of course we do.
PEI.
PEI, Prince Edward Island. I've never been east of Quebec City, and this is a day or two's drive east of Quebec City.
It's 14 and a half hours from here.
If you were to drive nonstop.
Yes,
So
and
you
we're
don't-
driving.
You're not
We're
driving 14 hours nonstop. So
It's a
we
road
will
trip.
stop.
It's another road trip. Yeah.
Which we can't wait to bring to you because we're going to make pit stops to fiber mills, wool shops. We're going to see a couple of old friends. We have one friend who's moved there. We may also see your coworkers that we just were on the Pride Field with because they're in Halifax and they
Yes.
offered to take us out on the ocean.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then we've got a couple of episodes we're working on as well. One of them is well, I'm not going to name this. Well, it's yarn shops. I wanted to do another yarn shop tour, and Toronto has so many yarn shops, and so
that'll be in the works.
That'll be in the works. Yeah, so we'll be working on that as well. So we've got a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of yarn dyeing as well. So anyway,
So I hope you didn't miss our little bit of a lull there in between our episodes, but we've been busy.
We're back on track.
And we're happy to have you here with us once again. And we look forward to seeing some of you at some of these upcoming festivals out there in the public, in the world.
or hearing from you through
Of course.
YouTube or Instagram as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and have a wonderful summer.
À la prochaine, mes amis.
Au revoir.
Energy. Oh, you're full of hair and shit. Oh shit! You got.
Oh,
No, it's gonna pick up on the camera because especially when it's close up. You trimmed your beard after your shirt went on. Oh my god!
no!